Good evening. Greetings to you wherever you are in the Eastern Caribbean and around the world. This is ECCB Digital Dialogues, a special public engagement series designed for you as we navigate this pandemic together. Tonight, our focus, Pandemic and Digital Currency Part 4. In the first 3 episodes on digital currency, we looked at several very important issues as we build our understanding about this very innovative project. We continue to feel significant interest about this project from within the region and well beyond. And so tonight, we are going to further explore what digital cash, otherwise called digital currency for EC, is all about. And to help us do that, we have an excellent panel, which you will hear from shortly. So again, I welcome all of you who have joined us this evening. And I now wish to proceed with a few housekeeping announcements. First, this dialogue is being streamed live on the ECCB Connect's Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/ECCBconnects. Attendees in the Zoom session will have their microphones muted and cameras turned off to ensure a smooth flow of the dialogue. Attendees are invited to submit their comments in the chat box. If you have questions for the attention of the panel, please use the Q&A box, not the chat box, the Q&A box, and we will ensure that your questions get to the panel. We have a colleague who is monitoring our Facebook page and will pull questions from our Facebook page into the Q&A box to ensure that those questions can also be addressed by the panel. As always, we welcome your full participation through your questions and comments, and we also ask that we have a respectful dialogue. That means no offensive content. If we find it, we will remove it, and so we simply ask that you keep it clean. The recording of the dialogue will remain on ECCB Connects on our Facebook page for everyone who may wish to view the event afterwards. If we experience any technical difficulties this evening and you lose connectivity, we simply ask that you reconnect to the dialogue with the link previously provided. I also wish to recognize that we have several radio stations which are carrying this dialogue this evening, and I'd like now to recognize those radio stations. And so we have in Anguilla, Radio Anguilla, Class FM, and Cool FM. In Antigua and Barbuda, there is ABS Radio and Nice FM Radio. In the Commonwealth of Dominica, we have Carry FM and Vibes Radio. In Grenada, we have Classic FM and We FM Radio. In St. Christopher and Nevis, we have Win FM 98.9, Freedom FM, and ZIZ TV. In Saint Lucia, we have W Vent 93.5, 94.7 FM, and Radio 100 Helen FM. And in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have Nice Radio, NBC Radio, and Praise FM. Good evening and welcome to our radio listeners as well. We're delighted to have you join us for ECCB Digital Dialogues. It is really a wonderful opportunity for us to engage, as I said, as we navigate this pandemic together. And so we look forward to an exciting evening of discussion and question and answer. And now, I'd like to introduce our panel. First is Ms. Charmaine Powell, our Chief Risk Officer and Head of our Office of Corporate Strategy and Risk Management. And Charmaine is also the Chair of our FinTech Working Group. Charmaine, good evening, welcome.
Good evening, Governor.
Great. And then there is Ms. Sybil Welch. Sybil is the Senior Project Specialist in the Governor's immediate office, and Sybil is a member of our FinTech Working Group. Sybil, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Governor. Thanks for the welcome. Good evening, everyone.
Great. And we have Mrs. Janelle Lake. And Janelle is information specialist in our Management Information Services Department, and she is also a member of our FinTech Working Group. Janelle, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Gov. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. Great.
And you will hear from our panel very shortly. And I want to give a shout out to all our ECCB management and staff who are joining us tonight. I am very proud of you. You guys work very hard, and I am grateful for all of your efforts during this pandemic. And so, as usual, we have 3 segments. First, I'm going to pose a few questions to our panel. Then we will have a poll, and this evening we have 3 questions lined up for you. And as always, that's an exciting segment where you get to immediately weigh in with your views on very pertinent questions. And in the 3rd segment, which is our longest, is where you get to pose your questions. And so we look forward to that as well. And so let us begin with our dialogue. And so I'm going to go to some questions for our panel. And you will recall, this is the 4th installment on our digital currency. And by the way, this evening, whenever we say digital currency, we also mean digital cash. It's one and the same thing for us. So if you hear EC digital currency, we also mean EC digital cash. In the first 3 episodes, we talked about the design of this project. We talked about the governance arrangements. And we also discussed the partners that will make up the ecosystem. Tonight, we want to focus. We want to drill down on the app, the user app, which you will use to be able to actually transfer and use digital EC cash. I also want to make the point that the basic proposition of this project is that the EC digital cash, or DCash for short, will be the fastest, safest, and cheapest way to make payments in our currency union. And we know why we are motivated to do that. We've talked about that before. So tonight, we're going to look at the app, the user's experience with the app. That's going to be our focus. And let's get into it. Charmaine, I'd like to ask you the first question. Can you explain the concept of the digital wallet and the differences between the 2 types of wallets which are available?
Thank you, Governor. For the project, we have 2 types of wallets that will be used. Now, the digital wallet is actually the app that gives you access to your funds. Your digital funds or your DCash is stored on the blockchain, and your app, which is on your device, whether it's your smartphone or your smart device, gives you access to those funds. And that's your digital wallet. Now, the 2 types of wallets we have the registered-based wallet and the value-based wallet. So I'll start with the registered-based wallet. The registered-based wallet are for those customers who have accounts at participating financial institutions. Now, we know we have 4 pilot countries, and we have specific institutions, financial institutions, commercial banks, and credit unions that are participating in the pilot. And so for those customers who have existing accounts at these financial institutions, they can have registered-based wallets. So they are onboarded or registered through their financial institutions. So they obtain a code from their financial institutions, and then they through the app, they register to be part of the pilot using that code. And then once their financial institution approves that application using their KYC information they currently have for them, then they are able now to access digital cash through that wallet that they have on their devices. And they can fund that wallet do a transfer from their account at that financial institution where they onboarded to their wallet. So they can send a message, whether through their internet banking, through their mobile banking, asking their financial institution to transfer funds from their account, and then they access it through their wallet. So the DCash will be on the blockchain, and through that digital wallet application on their device, then they can access their funds. Then of course we have the value-based wallet, and that's for those persons who either don't have a bank account, whether at a financial institution, whether at a commercial bank, or a credit union, or their accounts are not with one of the participating financial institutions. So we have some persons who may not bank with any of the FIs or financial institutions on the pilot, so they opt to have a value-based wallet. These are onboarded through what we call agents, and agents are non-bank financial institutions that are regulated, and they perform the function of onboarding these persons. So similarly, you download the app on your device and you fill out the remote application, and it's approved by the agent. In these instances, to fund that account, you take in physical ECCash and it's converted to digital cash, and then you can access it through your app on your device, similarly to a registered base. So those are the two types of wallets, and the bottom line is the digital wallet gives you access to your DCash on the blockchain.
Right, thank you, Charmaine. So there you have it, two wallets. Register-based, if you have an account with a financial institution, bank or credit union that's part of the pilot, or value-based, if you don't have an account with one of the registered partners, or you don't have an account, period. The bottom line is that we've got you covered whether you have an account or not. And by the way, let me say this before we move on. For those countries that are not in the initial pilot phase, we are looking very seriously at bringing you into the pilot not too long after we begin. And that's why I'm glad that all 8 countries are listening tonight, because even if you're not in the initial 4 countries where the pilots will be, that is St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, Saint Lucia, and Grenada, it is our intention to roll out very quickly to all member countries. And so we are looking at the possibility of extending the pilot to allow us to bring in all 8. We will start with the 4, but we are looking to extend. So I want to say that tonight. And part of the motivation for that is because of this pandemic and the need for us more than ever to rely on digital tools to, of course, observe the physical distancing protocols and the related issues around pandemic control. So we very much have you in mind. So with that introduction by Charmaine, I'd like to now go to Sybil. And Sybil, there are 3 steps, as I understand it, to use this app, to be able to actually transfer money using this app, to make a payment, to make a purchase. Talk us through the 1 to 3 steps, if you will.
Yes, Governor, and as Charmaine just spoke about how we get access to the DCash network. And then the only thing left to do is, how do I transact? And so it's very simple, as you said, 3 steps. Step 1, you use your phone and you have the app, the DCash app on your phone. And the merchants, when you get to the point of sale, the merchants will, just like how they would, bring up your total, they will generate a QR code. And a QR code is a quick response. Q&R stands for quick response. And what that does is, it has embedded in it information that will connect to the merchant's DCash wallet. And so they will generate a QR code and an invoice displaying the amount that you have to pay. So having scanned that, it will appear on your phone in the app, the amount. And that allows you the time to review. In a second, you scan, and the next second you review. And then the third is that if the amount is accurate and you want to go through with the purchase, you just swipe right and confirm the payment. And that's it. The transaction will be automatically settled, meaning that the funds that you have in DCash for the payment will then move to the merchant's wallet holdings. And so it's very easy. 3 things. You just scan, review, and confirm. That's it. That's a DCash transaction in 3 seconds.
1, 2, 3.
Yes.
That's your DCash right there. Thanks for that, Sybil. And of course, that was straightforward. And we're going to keep going over this. So for those of you who didn't get it the first time, we go over it again and again. It's important. We understand you're learning. So sometimes I meet people who say to me, I'm really excited about this. I'm listening. I'm learning every time. I still don't understand some things. And I said, don't worry. Keep listening and you will keep building your understanding. We're going to hold your hand and we're going to do this together because we're highly motivated to do this for our region. All right. Now, of course, you have to download the app either from the App Store or from the Google Play Store. But once you do that and you registered, as Sybil explained, it is 1, 2, 3.
3.
Good. Charmaine, I'd like to come back to you. Help us understand a little bit how the wallet functions in cases where persons hold multiple accounts in different financial institutions. How would that work?
Thank you, Governor. So this is one of the things that we bore in mind, knowing that currently a person can have accounts at 4 or 5 different institutions, and they have their mobile applications on their phones, and they can transfer funds, they can do different things. So with that in mind, so once you're a registered base user and you have accounts at different participating banks or credit unions in the pilot, you can in fact have different wallets for each of them. What is required is that for each institution, you have a different email address that you have to use, because your login credentials are your email address and your password. So for each financial institution, they will provide you a code and that would access the wallet. However, you would have to, when you're logging in, so for example, if I have an account at St. Kitts and Nevis National Bank, and I use email janebrown@yahoo.com, and I have at the credit union, I'll have to use a different email address so that when I log in with that email, it identifies my credit union account as opposed to my national bank account. So what is required is that you use a different email address for your login credentials, but you can in fact have multiple registered base wallets on your device. So you can access several accounts simultaneously from your device for DCash. It is possible.
Right. Thank you very much. And I'm glad we thought of that, because most people have more than one account, for those who have accounts. It's just the way it is. Most people who have a bank account probably have a credit union account, for example. That's very common in the Eastern Caribbean currency union. So that's a good thought.
And Governor, just if you want to equate it to when you go to an ATM, you might go to an ATM from 4 different banks and put all the funds in one physical wallet. So because you want to have that parity, so you want to identify. So you have all your funds in one wallet, you just have to log in with different credentials.
Right. Very good. Physical cash, physical wallet. Digital cash, digital wallet. The concept is pretty much the same once we could begin to conceptualize that. Very good. Janelle, I'd like to get you in on this. Tell us, Janelle, how will wallet-to-wallet digital cash transfers take place, say between the end users and the merchants? How will that interplay happen or work?
Right. So Sybil has already done an excellent job explaining the transaction functionality within the digital wallet in 3 steps, but I'll chime in a bit. So as an end user or consumer, making transfers to family or friends, or even paying for goods or services, as Sybil mentioned, could be done in a few simple steps. 3 sounds about correct, so I agree with Sybil in that regard. First, you will go to your DCash wallet and tap Pay from the list of options. This is, of course, assuming that you've already downloaded and installed the DCash wallet app on your smart device, as you rightly mentioned, Governor, because this is where the magic happens. You would then either enter the payment code provided to you by the recipient, or you would scan the QR code to perform a transfer or make payment. Both the QR code, which is a special barcode, and the payment code, which is a text string, are created by the recipient and contain all the necessary transaction details to ensure the correct amount is delivered to the correct person or entity. Either method could be used to complete a transaction. Once you've entered the payment code into your wallet or scanned the QR code with your device, you would then confirm, and then the transaction would be done. It is really that easy. On the receiving end, it's similarly a few simple steps. On the receiving end, you would, in the case of family or friends sending you DCash, you will go to your DCash wallet and tap on the receive button from the list of options. This allows you to generate a payment code or a QR code as above, as prior rather, with details of the transaction. You would then either make your QR code available to the sender to scan, or you would share your payment code with them so that they can enter it into their wallet to complete the transaction, just as described before. When the payment is received, you will get a notification. In the case of merchants, they would have similar paying and receiving functionality that would allow them to process payments in a similar fashion. The merchant would create an invoice for payment within the DCash wallet app for the amount of the transaction. This would generate a QR code and a payment code, which the customer would either scan or manually enter into their DCash digital wallet to make payment. All of these transactions are functionally instantaneous and take place at no cost to you, whether sending or receiving funds. Upon completion of these transactions, in addition to seeing the difference reflected in your wallet balance, your wallet's history would also be a record of these transactions, which you could access by tapping the history button in the available options. I just want to make the note that in this pandemic, while social distancing is required, that both payment methods are contactless. So if QR codes are used to facilitate payment, which is ideal in cases where the persons transacting are in the same physical space, such as when making in-store purchases or sending money to household members, no contact is required, as the devices need only get near enough for one device to read the QR code that is on the screen of the other. The use of payment codes, on the other hand, allows for even greater distancing, as payment codes can be shared using WhatsApp, email, text message, or even communicated via phone call and entered manually to complete transaction. The sharing of payment codes is ideal in situations where the persons transacting are on different islands, maybe, or on opposite ends of the same island. And I know this is a lot of information, but I just want to reassure everyone that we'll be making training material available to all participants to ensure seamless transacting.
Right, thank you, Janelle. And it's a lot, but it's important. And the idea of having this dialogue available on our Facebook page means that you can go and simply, at your own pace and time, review it and begin to fully absorb it. And of course, to ask any questions if you need any clarifications or help. So that is important. Thanks for that. Contactless payments. In this pandemic, we need contactless payments. But frankly, we were thinking about it before the pandemic, and long after this pandemic is over, we're going to have to continue with contactless payments. So this is really a very important project for our region. Sybil, will I or anyone who is using DCash, the wallets, will we be able to earn interest? Is it a savings account? Can you speak to that?
Governor, it's cash. And so cash in your wallet earns no interest. What we use cash for is for transactional purposes. It's a payment instrument. And so while it has the equivalence of its physical EC counterpart, its legal tender, of course, it's different is that it's not for savings, it's for transactions. And here's where I want to put on my financial prudence, my financial management hat, in that persons should only move enough DCash to deal with their expenditure. And this is where the budgeting comes in. How much you want to pay for gas? How much do we want to pay for groceries, for shopping, for all of these things which are critical to our existence? But at the same time, it's important to have savings. And that's why there's no competition between your DCash and your savings account. They are both important to make sure you achieve your goals in life. So it's not an investment instrument, doesn't compete with government securities or treasuries, and it's not a bank deposit. It is for our transactions, and that's important for us to understand. So it's not interest bearing. When we want interest, we make sure we put our savings aside. And there's that whole issue of make sure we save 10% put aside 10% for us. And that's important for us to understand the difference.
Thank you, Sybil. Your financial literacy hat is always on. I saw you talking about setting aside, which is very important because, you know, one of the lessons of this pandemic is the necessity to set aside for a rainy day, to have fiscal and financial buffers. And so the point you make en passant is quite important. But of course, I'm sure we could take up more of that on another occasion. But Charmaine, we hear the term, or we've been talking about the app is zero rated. What on earth does that really mean? Break that down for us tonight. What do we mean by saying this app is zero rated?
Governor, when we say zero rated, no, we know that the app requires data or Wi-Fi for the transactions to be processed. So persons have a concern that when they use the DCash, then their data is going to go down. And they want the data to do their WhatsApping and look at their Snapchats and their Instagram. They don't want to use all their data to do transactions. So what zero rated means is that when you use the app to do transactions, it does not reduce your data. So the telecommunication companies have graciously agreed to have no cost to your data for all the DCash transactions. So it simply means that you would have the data on your device to transact, but there will be no reduction in your data when you do the transaction. That's all it means. And we're very pleased to have the telecommunications company partner with us in this regard, because it encourages now persons to get on board knowing that they can transact without worrying about their data being reduced.
Great. And I want to join in really commending our telecommunication companies for partnering with us in this way. Because really and truly, to advance our region, we need key partnerships. And this is really, really a good one. And again, benefiting the consumer. And by the way, our companies have been working extremely hard in this period to make connectivity available to all of us when everybody is on all day long and maybe all night long too. And many people are using Netflix and other things and streaming. It's a lot of traffic on our broadband networks. So I want to acknowledge the stellar work of our telecommunication companies in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, and of course beyond, who have been working very hard to keep us connected. This is a very, very important time for all of us. And by the way, before I move on, let me just say, for those of you who are thinking this thing is sounding technical, just think about where you were, for those of you who were not using Zoom before this pandemic. Now you're an expert. Now you're using it for everything. We learn quickly. And the point is, once we have a growth mindset, once we have an open mind, we can master almost anything. So I just want to encourage you with that. Think about where you were 4 months ago and where you are now. Everybody, including our grandparents, are using Zoom. And therefore, this is not beyond you. You are more than capable of understanding this. It may take a little time, but that's why we're here, to guide you and to assist you with understanding what is on offer. I have a couple more questions before we move to the second segment. So let me ask you, Sybil, are transaction fees dependent on institutions, vendors, merchants, or are they set by the ECCB? And what should users expect in relation to fees for using the app and for transacting?
I want to think about this in the context of why the central bank is advancing the digitization of a portion of the EC currency. And it really is to, in addition to enhancing the pace of commerce and all of the things that address growth, competitiveness, and financial inclusion, part and parcel of this is really to address the cost of doing business. And we recognize the relatively high cost of the current payment systems and financial services. With this in mind, therefore, we can expect that the cost for transacting in DCash will be minimal. In respect of the consumer, you and I, there'll be no cost to transact in DCash. There'll be no cost. Janelle spoke about the no cost to transfer. And that's important as we speak about one single financial and economic space. The intention is that the consumer will see no financial disadvantage whether they're using DCash or they're using the physical counterpart of EC notes and coins. And we hope that over time we'll gradually reduce the use of our physical in favor of digital, because that is the way to go. Governor indicated it's the safest, the cheapest, the fastest. And that's what we want to make sure persons live and feel that experience and feel the benefits of that. In respect of merchants, there'll be no cost during the pilot. Post-pilot, we would then consider that currently merchants pay a discount, what you call a merchant discount rate, to enable point of sales machine and offer electronic payments. And they're charged up to about 3.5% in addition to the rental charge for the point of sales machine. So the range is between 2 to 5%. When we look at this, we can guarantee to all merchants, because we want everyone on board with this transformation in the payment system architecture, it will be manageable, and the benefits will more than, we talk about the dance can't pay for the lights. In this case, your dance will more than pay for the lights that it costs to transact in DCash, to accept DCash payments, because it will be far less than what currently obtained. So if the average right now is between 2 to 5, imagine that your cost will be below that. Yeah. And that is a manageable cost.
Right. Thank you, Sybil. I'm so glad you spoke to that. So bottom line is that this is free during the pilot phase, and we are absolutely certain that post-pilot phase, whatever the charge, it will be well below, significantly below whatever you are paying right now. And that is the motivation. Payments are too expensive and too slow in our region. There have been improvements over time, but we are not satisfied with where we are. And in this period when things are tight, financially speaking, every dollar counts, and we need to make our dollars go as far as they can. And so we want to be spending less of our hard-earned dollars on payment services and more on the actual services that we wish to consume. And that is why this project is so important for our region. I have one more question for our panel, and I'm going to pose that to Janelle. Janelle, is there a solution that would enable software developers to integrate this digital cash app into mobile or web applications?
Yes, there is, Gov. In the initial stages of the pilot deployment, the focus will be on the secure issuance and distribution of digital cash to facilitate transactions with merchants as well as peer-to-peer transfers. But we have also initiated engagements with specific merchants to see how DCash can be used to facilitate innovative billing and payment options. Although this functionality may not be available at the start of the live pilot, it is expected to be rolled out during the initial 6-month phase. We are also aiming to work with third-party wallet providers, software developers, and other fintech companies. It is at this time that we'll be making accommodations for these entities to experiment with integrating the APIs used during the pilot into their product offerings for development purposes. Because of course, we want to foster interoperability in the financial ecosystem. We encourage all interested persons to reach out to us to be involved in this aspect of the project.
Great, thank you, Janelle. So for those entrepreneurs who have been asking, and I've been getting questions as well, will I be able to potentially add some value by being able to integrate it with some particular offering that I have? The answer is, as you just said, yes, there will be an opportunity for you to do so. So stay tuned for that. That's exciting going forward. So we look forward to that for entrepreneurs who are looking at opportunities. Very good. Well, I think I'd like to end this first segment. Thank you, ladies. You've done a great job so far in responding to the questions. And now I'd like to move to the second segment, which is our poll. And like I said at the top, we have 3 questions prepared for you tonight where we'd like to get your views. So I will now invite my colleague to, I believe, Iodella Roach. Io, as we call her, is on the poll. So Io, good evening, welcome. Please go ahead and post our first question. Those of you who don't know, this is a nice game we play every time we do dialogues. You have to put in your homepage, www.menti.com. So that's the site you go into, www.menti.com. Once you do that, you need a code. And the code tonight is 664885. 664885. So let me repeat. You need to go to www.menti.com. www.menti.com. Once you do that, you need a code. And the code tonight is 664885. And the first question will begin to appear. And I see we have a QR code also available. So we're starting to practice using QR codes for those of you who prefer that option. Very good. Question number 1 is posed. In which of the following scenarios would you likely use your digital ECCash? In which of the following scenarios would you likely use your digital ECCash? And here are the options. When I need to pay quickly, when I need to transfer funds to a peer or friend, when a friend needs to transfer funds to me, when I need to make a payment to a business, when I need to accept a business payment. So those are the options, 5 options, and the poll is now open. And I'm just looking at the results. It's early, but I'm going to just hold a minute before I comment further. People are casting. So the question is, in which of the following scenarios would you likely use the digital ECCash? If I need to make a payment quickly, if I need to transfer funds to a friend, if I need a friend to transfer funds to me, if I need to make a payment to a business, or if I need to accept a business payment. Those are the 5 options. And so for those of you who are in Radio Land, I'm going to tell you what's happening shortly. We have real-time broadcasting going on, and so we're going to tell you the results in a minute. So I'm going to give you one more, let's say 30 seconds for the first question, 30 seconds for the first question, and then we're going to end, and we will share the results of that first poll. The countdown is on. I see we're getting more advanced with our technology. And that is how it ought to be. Technology is a servant to be used by us for our development. That's what it is. It's a tool to be used by us for our development. And we need to make it work for us, not the other way around. So it's over. Question number 1, timed out. 41 persons said they want to use it to make a payment quickly. That was the highest number. 36 persons said that they want to use it to transfer funds to a friend or pair. 31 persons said that they want to be able to have a friend transfer funds to them. 33 people said that they want to make a payment to a business. And 20 people said they want to accept it as for business. In other words, a business payment. So there you have it. By a little bit, not too much. It's to make a quick payment. That's the winner, if you will. Of course, they're all winners because it's just your views. There's no right and wrong here. It's what you want, what you think. So thanks for that. Thanks for that feedback. As we say at the ECCB, feedback is a gift. So we appreciate your feedback on that tonight. Let's go to our second question, please. Our second question. And if you're just joining us again, it's www.menti.com. 664885 is the code. Good evening, welcome. You are listening or viewing ECCB Digital Dialogues, and our focus this evening is Pandemic and Digital Currency Part 4. So this is our 4th installment on our innovative Digital ECCash project. And so the second question is, after this dialogue mini-series, how do you feel about the Digital ECCash? 1, I understand it better now. 2, I see the potential or the benefits. 3, my concerns have been addressed. 4, I still do not get it. I need more information. 5, I need more convincing. So those are the options, and we now give you a chance to express your views. So here's the question again. After this dialogue mini-series, so this is the 4th we've done on digital currency or digital ECCash, DCash for short. How do you now feel about the digital ECCash? And you have 5 options with which to use to respond. And so we're going to give you another, let's say another 30 seconds for this one, and then we're going to close the second question. So the countdown is now on. Again, good evening to you wherever you are in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, whether you're listening by radio or viewing by television or Facebook or in Zoom. Whatever the platform, welcome. We're happy to have you this evening. We are in our second segment, which is our poll, where you get to answer questions. We have 3 for you tonight, and we've just ended the second question. And here are the results. 36 people said, I understand it better now. 49 people said, I am beginning to see the benefits. 15 people said, my concerns have been addressed. 4 people said, I still do not get it. I need more information. And 4 people said, I need more convincing. So clearly, the overwhelming majority of persons have said they understand it better now, which is the object of this exercise, to improve your understanding, and also that they see the benefits. And I think that's a start. So if you see the benefits, the potential, and you're beginning to understand it, then this potentially is something that you will find useful and may want to be a part of when we launch. So thanks for that. Again, we appreciate your feedback. Let's go to our third and final question this evening. Question number 3. What would be the most appealing to you as an incentive to use digital ECCash? What would be the most appealing to you as an incentive to use digital ECCash? 1, a cash bonus on sign-up or during the pilot. 2, giveaways at participating merchants or financial institutions. 3, discounts at participating merchants. So if you need an incentive to use digital EC or DCash, which of these 3 would work best for you? Cash bonus at sign-up or during the pilot, giveaways at participating institutions, merchants or financial institutions, or discounts at participating merchants. And a merchant is where you buy goods and services. Okay? All right. So we're going to give you a little more time on this one. We want to hear from you on this. This is important feedback because we can use that to also inform our discussion with our pilot partners and to ensure that we design something that best meets your needs. So this is important as well. Thirty seconds. Okay, so the countdown is over. The question is closed. Let's see the feedback. 21% said they would love to have a cash bonus at sign up or during the pilot. 3 persons said giveaways at participating merchants or financial institutions. And 35% said discounts at participating merchants. So clearly, the leader of this one is we want discounts at participating merchants. Merchants, if you're listening, the people are speaking, pay attention. All right. So with that, we've come to the end of our poll tonight. Again, thank you, all of you, for your participation. I'm sure the day will come when our radio listeners can get an app to also weigh in on these questions. So we have to work on that. We want to make sure everybody is included. So we'll have to think that one through. So let's like to acknowledge again the radio stations that are joining us tonight and that are carrying this program. And so we have with us from Anguilla, Radio Anguilla, Class FM, and Cool FM. In Antigua and Barbuda, we have ABS Radio and Nice FM Radio. In the Commonwealth of Dominica, we have Kyrie FM and Vibes Radio. In Grenada, we have Classic FM and We FM. In St. Christopher and Nevis, we have Win FM 98.9, Freedom FM, and ZIZ TV. In St. Lucia, we have W Vent 93.5, 94.7 FM, and Radio 100 Helen FM. And in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have Nice Radio, NBC Radio, and Praise FM. So again, greetings, and we want to welcome and thank all our radio listeners across the Currency Union who are joining us for this dialogue tonight. And by the way, we thank God for sparing our isles in the last few days from Gonzalo and from Isaias, I think is what this one was called. And so we are grateful for his mercies. Right, so with that, we are now going to move to our third and final segment. And in this segment, we take your questions. So whether you're on Zoom or Facebook, you can send your questions through. And so let's go to our Q&A box and see what we have. Question number 1. Will the DCash be transferable to other exchange platforms like Coinbase and Binance, for example? Who wants to take that one?
No one I can
Will
take
the
that one.
DCash be transferable to other exchange platforms like Coinbase? Yes.
So, Governor, one of the things that we've underscored is that the digital currency is not cryptocurrency. And we've made that differentiation. So to answer the question, the answer is no. But it's a sovereign currency, not a cryptocurrency. They will not be transferred to cryptocurrency platforms.
Right. So I thank Charmaine, and let me just underscore that again. It's come up a couple of times. This app, this project, is to facilitate payments within the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. So it's domestic payments using our domestic currency, which is our EC dollar. And in this case, we're making a digital version of the EC dollar available for you to transact. So it is not something that we can use to make international payments or to transfer to platforms like Coinbase. I have said that there are ongoing discussions internationally about global digital currencies and the interface with digital currencies that will facilitate international payments. That is a discussion going on right now. I have been part of some of those discussions with major central banks around the world which are looking at this issue. We are not there yet. The focus of this pilot is on our domestic currency union and payments within our currency union. Okay, let's take the next question. Question number 2. What happens if someone has lost his or her phone? Can another person who finds that phone use that phone to transact and use the owner's DCash? If I lose my phone or smart device and somebody finds it, can they then take my device and use it to steal my digital cash?
Right. I'll weigh in on this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Right, Janelle?
Sure. So this is why we preach the virtues of good cyber hygiene. You want to make sure you password protect your smart devices with nice strong passwords or passphrases. You want to do the same for your digital wallet so that in the event that your device is lost, someone can't just find your device, log into it, open your digital wallet, and spend your digital dollars. We also want to make the point that you should make use of the security features that we've built into these apps, such as wallet recovery, to ensure that if you should lose your device and you need to recover your wallet onto a new device, you could do that quite easily. So you protect yourself from these risks by making sure that you password protect your device and you password protect your wallets, and you make use of the security features inbuilt into these digital wallet apps.
Right. Thank you, Janelle. Sybil, you wanted to add something there?
I was going to also include, and Janelle has really covered it, but also to include biometrics. So your phone, as well as the app, could have biometrics that would allow you, and when we say biometrics, it means it's like your fingerprint. You know, many of our phones, you need your fingerprint, or you could use your iris scan. And all of these things are built into the smartphone. And so you leverage that as well. So if somebody finds your phone, they will have to really find you to get access to the phone. And as Janelle indicated as well, the app also has security architecture built into it to give double layers of security or multi-layers of security. So which is why we say as a value proposition, it's the fastest, safest, cheapest.
Right, thank you for that. So there you have it, the several security features, including biometrics. And I mean, we many of us are already using that. I mean, with our iPhones, for example, we're using facial recognition, we're using fingerprints. We don't have to remember to put in passwords if we don't want to use those. We have options. So there will be some strong security features to protect you. But I think also we always have to make the point, there is personal responsibility here. And that's why Janelle started by talking about good cyber hygiene. So just as we talk about hand hygiene in this pandemic, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. We also talk about cyber hygiene, which is knowing the things to do and not do to protect yourself when you use digital tools. And that's a very important thing that we have to continue to learn and to appreciate in our region. Good and proper cyber hygiene, the do's and don'ts of using digital tools. And so that will have to continue to be stressed. Good. Let's go to our next question. The third question says, how will the new extremely low merchant discount be shared with all participants in the value chain? How will the new extremely low merchant discount be shared with all participants in the value chain? Who wants to take that one?
I want to talk about, Governor, the economy is circular. So when a merchant saves, they pump that either into growing their business, which then can expand to hire more persons. They make their businesses more innovative, but they also pass a portion of the cost savings onto the customer with discounts and other attractive incentives to accelerate consumer purchases. And so when we think of the economy, it's really circular. What I get, I share, whether through expanding my employment base, that those additional employees now spend and generate income and jobs for other persons. So it's almost as if when one gains, we all gain. And that is what this is all about when we talk about increasing competitiveness by reducing the cost of transactions. When we are more competitive, we are not only at the bottom line, when we hit our bottom line, our margins as merchants, but the whole community feels that expansion benefit. And that is what we speak about in terms of the value chain. Everyone gets a part of that.
Right. Just to add, of course, that the ECCB itself has made a significant investment in this project. We have done the heavy lifting in terms of development of the app, all of the requisite infrastructure around that. And we're not charging for that. That is part of our contribution to developing our region. And so normally when somebody makes that investment, they are looking for a return on that investment. So they're going to charge fees to do that. In our case, that's a contribution we make on your behalf because we work for you. So we're not looking to recover any money from this. We're looking to advance our region and our economy by doing this. And so those who are coming, they don't have to be looking for big fees because they have not done the big investment. We've done that. Of course, they're going to be looking for business, and hopefully as they have traffic and so on, they will be able to generate activity and I'm sure, look to add value and make additional offerings, which they can then use to develop business opportunities, and that's fine. But the heavy investment is really borne by the ECCB, and we've done that as part of investing in our region, in our people, and giving us a chance to advance our development. And that's our role. So we're not looking to. The return for us is to see people happier, to see money moving faster, to see money make payments being made cheaper, and of course safer. And because we know the more money moves around and the faster it moves, it has a positive effect on the economy, the circulation of money. And so that will benefit the economy. And if that happens, that is going to be a tide that is lifting our boats. And so we have a motivation to provide that opportunity for our region, and that is why we're doing this. All right, let's get back to our questions. There's one from Facebook now. Once launched, meaning the app, the DCash, once launched, how will the public be kept informed of participating institutions, including new ones or delisted partners? So let me repeat the question. Once launched, how will the public be kept informed of participating institutions, including new or delisted?
Governor, for persons who actually have the DCash app on their devices, there is an option where you can click and get a list, up-to-date list of all participating financial institutions as well as merchants. And just in case a person doesn't have access to the app at the time, they can go to the website as well, where that would be maintained as well. So we'll always have up-to-date information on all the financial institutions participating as well as the merchants. So that is continually available throughout the pilot.
Right. So thank you, Charmaine. So if you are a user, you have the app, the information will be there for you. And outside of that, for the general public, of course, we may put out statements of this from time to time. But I mean, you're either in it or you're not. And if you're in it, then you will be able to get the information. And those who are in it are going to be the ones, of course, who are most interested in this, because they want to see the network and what they can do using the DCash. Good. We have another question. It says this: is the app available now from the Play Store? Can we see it? Is it there? Can we go now and download the app? Is the question.
So the apps are currently in beta testing mode, and they're only available to a select few as we're still tweaking some of the functionality. Of course, we want to make sure that everything works as it should. So right now, unless you're one of our testers, the app would not be available to you in any one of our app stores. And that would be the iOS or the Apple app stores or the Android app stores.
Right. So the answer is that it is not available widely yet. At the moment, it's available to those persons who are involved in our testing, what we call the user acceptance testing phase, where we're doing the final touches based on user feedback. So they have access, and eventually we will open it up. That's coming soon. Good. Next question. Can DCash users be able to add cash from foreign-based savings accounts? So this is from Facebook. Can DCash users add cash from foreign-based savings accounts? Who wants to take that one? You're going to have to go through your bank, right? So
I'm assuming, Governor, that the foreign-based savings account is with their bank, and the bank is part of the DCash network. So it all goes to whatever setup that one has with one's bank, and that's important. If you have online banking that leverages your foreign-based savings account, then at the back end of it, there would be that transfer to the value of EC, and then that will be what the DCash. So you can go cash in hand and do that, or if you have that arrangement for online transactions with your bank, then that can be leveraged to do that based on the instructions that you have given to your bank.
Right. So I mean, if your current arrangement, as Sybil said, you are connected to your foreign accounts, through your bank, then you can do that transfer, assuming they're a pilot partner. If not, you take the money and then you then load it on using the value-based wallet option. Okay, let's move to another question. Facebook again. If I send money to someone who does not fulfill their end, is there an option to dispute? If I send money to someone who does not fulfill their end, is there an option to dispute?
So the answer to that, Governor, is yes. We have built into the whole the system for the DCash where we have escalation procedures. So you can go through your FI and it goes up the chain until the matter is resolved. And because all the information is on the blockchain and all the participants are known, we will be able to trace and have it resolved. So we do have procedures in place that the users will be made aware of. Once they onboard, their financial institution will advise them of the different procedures or the agents to deal with disputes or complaints, as it were, and the different escalation process to deal with those. So there are procedures in place, and having everybody on the network known helps.
Also, the issue too, as Charmaine said, Governor, is that this is a consumer protection issue. And so consumers always have recourse with the particular in-country agency. This is a transaction, and if I pay for something and I don't get what I paid for, the recourse that I use will be the same. Now, if there is something on the transactional infrastructure that one can then use the customer service resources to make a complaint. But at the end of it, if this goes beyond that, there's always the courts, the consumer protection acts that will come to bear, and of course, the law that will come to bear as well. So this is part of the ecosystem of our existence. So all the legal and all the other institutions are also part of this as well.
Right, thank you. So the answer is yes. Next question, Facebook again. Can this site be hacked by intruders? Can this site be hacked by intruders?
So we've made every effort to make hacking very difficult. We have observed industry best practice, and we are in keeping with industry standards where security is concerned. And so we are making hacking very difficult. So you could rest assured that no security stone has been left unturned. Hacking would be made very difficult based on the security measures that we have implemented.
Right. Thanks for that, Janelle. Tight security. Thank you. Next question. If you have access to the app living in a participating country, can you transact with someone with the app who is not living in a participating country?
Governor, the simple answer to that would be no. Well, at this point in the pilot, reason being that that person would have had to onboard with either a financial institution or an agent. To the extent that there's no financial institution or an agent that had onboarded them onto the pilot, they won't be able to transact. So for the first part of the pilot, you can only transact with the persons in the four participating countries. And as the pilot progresses, then it will be all 8. But the need to be onboarded by a participating institution is critical, and the absence of that will prevent you from being able to transact with that person.
Right. Thank you for that. So, not yet, but we plan to get you there because we want to get all 8 of our member countries involved in this pilot. We start with the first 4 that we had already said we would, but we want to look at rolling that out faster than we had perhaps planned, but we think in this pandemic, it's important for us to be able to make it available as quickly as possible to all member countries and all citizens in our 8 member countries. Good. Do we have any more? Yes, I see another question from Facebook. In any event of problems with internet services, what will happen to the transaction?
So in the event that there's a connectivity issue, you would see the transaction take place on your end. However, it may not finally settle until you get your connectivity restored. So it needs connectivity in order for the full transaction to take place from end to end.
Right, right. And that is why I think you will see continued work by our governments working with the private sector, the telcos meaning telecommunication companies, to improve connectivity. I know that is a focus right now, how we could continue to improve connectivity. Because I've made a point before, and I repeat tonight, one of the lessons of this pandemic is that connectivity and digital tools have been a lifeline, or as I put it, a bulwark of resilience. If you think about what we're doing with these tools now, we're doing work, we're doing school, we're doing worship, and of course, we're doing a lot of financial transactions. So there is indeed a big need for us to ensure that we have strong connectivity. And one of the things we also have pointed out, I have made the point repeatedly, is that we have observed the difference, because connectivity is in some ways a driver of inequality. If you have connectivity, you're in. If you don't, you're out. And we want to make sure that no one is left behind. No citizen is unable to participate in the economy. Part of the motivation for this project, quite frankly, is financial inclusion, to make sure that all of our people have access to financial services. That includes not just being able to do payments and receive payments, but also access to credit. And so we have to be connected. It's a digital world. It's the digital world, and there's no turning away or turning back that clock. So the issue of connectivity is really, really important, and you're going to see a lot of efforts in that regard. I just want to mention one of the projects that was recently approved by the World Bank. It's a $94 million project to do several things, including digitizing government services in several of our member countries, digitizing financial services, also cybersecurity, data protection, digital skills training, among other things. And you'll be hearing more of that project. The OECS Commission is coordinating with ourselves at ECCB, working with ECTEL, and also with Impacts, and of course the World Bank. You'll be hearing a lot more about that project soon. That project was approved by the World Bank last month, a $94 million project. Very, very important for us as a region to position ourselves and to be able to really move forward now with our digital transformation process. And frankly, the pandemic has simply expedited, the pace of digital transformation. And we need to use it to our advantage. All right, let's get back to the questions. What criterion went into selecting the agents? What criteria went into selecting agents?
Governor, one of the main considerations was that they had to be regulated. Wanted to make sure, because AML safety is a very important part of this process, and because
sorry for continuing. When we say
anti-money laundering and counter financial terrorism. Sorry.
Right.
So, and recognizing that we have not relaxed any regulation, any legislation for the purpose of the pilot. So we had to ensure that any institution that was going to be responsible for onboarding customers, doing the KYC and that sort of thing, had to be regulated. So they had to be subject to the same regulation, the same monitoring as the financial institutions that are onboarding the registered base customers. So that's one of the main considerations that went in selecting the agents. They had to be regulated and subject to the anti-money laundering and counter-financing terrorism requirements that are in place.
Right. So we've chosen reputable and regulated agents. And you would expect no less from us as a central bank.
And they also have to have a strong compliance, for a functioning compliance function.
For anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism.
Yes.
So those things were looked at. So if you're wondering why maybe other people were not, well, maybe they don't yet have those requirements covered. And so we are prepared to expand the network of agents, but we do need them to satisfy us on those things. Because we have to ensure at all times strong anti-money laundering and combating finance of terrorism protocols are in place. Right, let's go. Next question. Will the zero rate data arrangements with the telecoms work beyond the pilot? I think we've heard that question before, but what happens after the pilot?
After the pilot, that is a matter for discussion with the telcos. We appreciate their partnership now, but like everything else, we'd have to do an assessment. And one of the key things we'd have to take into consideration is how much data is used per transaction so that they can understand what it is that they're getting into. And that will determine whether or not it continues or if it's at a significantly lower rate. So at this point, we cannot say yes or no, it will not continue. What we will say is that having done the assessment of what exactly is involved in transacting in DCash, then we can make a determination and have a negotiation with the telcos as to how to proceed post-pilot.
Right, right. So there you have it. And by the way, I also want to recognize the telcos who have worked. I believe they've zero-rated some of the education platforms that our children are using, our students are using. They've zero-rated those, again, in the interest of making access, making them more accessible and of course, affordable. And that is great. Good. Next question. What plans do we have for public education on this initiative? What plans do we have for public ed on this initiative?
So I think Civil is big on marketing. I'll answer that one.
Civil, what is yours?
We all can answer. I think we have pursued a collaborative approach for the marketing of this, and very shortly we have various levels of marketing, the mass marketing that will take care of making sure the public at large get on board our DCash experience and get to understand the value and the benefits. At the merchant level, it's about co-creating, co-branding, co-marketing. We want, as the survey showed, that merchant discounts are the top desire of the customer in terms of incentivizing their usage. And so all of this partnership and collaboration with merchants are critical, and we're working with them. We're actually in discussions with them as we move forward. In terms of the financial institutions, they're also a critical partner. We're working with them to look at what best fits this co-marketing and this co-branding and this collaborative move for their customers if they're banks, or for their members if they're credit unions. And so what we see in terms of the marketing is that it's a collaborative approach. We're focusing on education, not just the benefits, but for persons to understand how to use the technology, how to safeguard, as Janelle indicated, their smart device, and how to make sure that their DCash experience is one that will last them for a lifetime, that they will be not just on board for the pilot, but that they will be part of this larger ecosystem of transacting in a digital economy that will see benefits to them, their households, their community, and their country. So just look out, we're at the final touches of putting on the final touches of marketing and education. But Governor, let us not undersell this idea of yours for this digital dialogues during the pandemic and beyond, is that, the way that you educate is to communicate. And so by this, we have had many persons who stop us in the street and say, I now understand what this is about. And as the survey say, more and more persons are beginning to understand, appreciate the benefits, and are willing now to just say, where can you sign me up so I can have my DCash? And so it's about DCash preparedness. You talk about hurricane preparedness. It's also about DCash preparedness. And so that's part of what we are advancing. And this is just the first step of our public education, our website. We're having not just our ECCB website, but a website designated for DCash. All things DCash you can go to. And so it's a multi-layered education initiative. And we have the media. And media are critical to getting the word out. And we have the media in all 8 countries, as you identified, Governor. So I think we are not at the apex yet of our marketing, but we're certainly on a good road.
Right. Thank you. Yes, we're warming up. We're warming up, and this is the warm up. You know, you usually warm up and then you have the actual race. So we're in warm up mode right now with this series, and then some strong marketing will take place. Perhaps we might call it the DCash Festival. Hint idea. I'll leave that there for marketers. Let's go back to the questions, please. So what costs or fees will the merchants be charging for payments? What are the costs, fees to merchants for accepting payments?
Governor, for the purpose of the pilot, there's no fees to the merchants. As we have said before, for persons to come on board, as an incentive to come on board, to get the DCash out there and persons to understand, we have zero fees, whether for the merchants, the financial institutions, or the end users. So for the purpose of the pilot, there are no fees attached to it.
No fees. And I think because it's shocking, people keep asking the question because they can't believe it. No fees in the pilot phase. Okay.
Just benefits, Governor. No fees,
benefits,
just benefits.
And yes, and giving you the utility to really use something and make it your own. So that's what that is all about. Here's another question. Is there any way to ensure transparency of all transactions? Is there any way to ensure transparency of all transactions? Janelle, I think you want to go ahead.
Go ahead, Sybil.
No, when we say, we want to make sure that we understand that the ledger, the blockchain allows for transparency, but it also allows for privacy. And that is important. That is important because, of course, in making transactions, if I'm doing everything legitimate, there's no need for everyone who does not need to be involved in my transaction activity to have any insight into that. But what it does allow for, because it keeps a record of every transaction and that record is immutable, meaning that it's not easily changed, then that allows for, if there's a need for regulatory intervention, then that allows for that history to be captured and assessed. But part of what this allows for is the comfort of privacy as well as the regulatory oversight as required. So when one says transparency, the ledger allows for that, but it also allows for persons to have privacy, that you only see and you only get access to what you are permitted, because it's a private permission blockchain network. So you're only allowed to see what you need to see and no more. And that allows for safety as well.
Right.
And if I were to add, Governor, similarly as it is currently, where only your bank sees your information. So if you bank with only your bank, so similarly for the DCash, only your bank can see your information. Anybody else would have to have legal requirements to see that information. So this is a similar arrangement.
Right. So your privacy is assured, even as we ensure that we have financial integrity with respect to the network. And when I speak of financial integrity, I'm referring to anti-money laundering and combating financial terrorism protocols. Right, I think we have a couple more questions before we conclude. Here's the next. What is the smallest value of payment that can be accommodated by the digital dollar? What's the smallest value of payment that can be accommodated by the digital dollar?
Whatever the cheapest product out there, there's no minimum, Governor. Whatever you have to buy, there's no minimum.
It's not like when you go in to do credit card payments and they say no payments lower than 25. And that's because the cost that they have to pay for the merchant discount rate means that they have to ensure that they can at least cover that cost and make it feasible. In this, because the cost is minimal, then there'll be no minimum payment that one cannot do. And that's as Charmin say, whatever, if you're buying a drink. And that's what you want to make, that this becomes as accessible as your physical cash. And then the utility value is what it is. We'll give you that. And that's why we keep the costs at the margins.
Right, no minimum. So this is a small man, small woman app. Any one of us can use it. No minimum. Right, that's the point you were making, Sybil. When they say $25, that's because the dance can't pay for the lights. So they have to put a minimum. We have no minimums. Small man up, and big man too, and woman for that matter. Very good. Do we have I think we have a couple more before we wrap up. I think I saw, is there another question? Yes. Right, I see a couple more. Can more than one person share the same wallet? Somewhat like a joint account. Interesting. Can more than one person share the same wallet? Somewhat like a joint account.
So, Governor, the credentials used to access your wallet are unique to you. You have your username and your password, and that the code that was given to create that wallet is unique to you. So each individual has to have their own wallet. You can't have a joint wallet, as it were.
Right. So you could have a joint account, but you have to have separate wallets.
Precisely. So you can transfer funds from a joint account, but it has to go to separate wallets.
So my wife and I may have a joint account, but when it comes to using DCash, she has to have her digital wallet. I have to have mine.
Yes.
Right. Thanks for that. Good question.
That's also for security as well, Governor. That's also security issues because you want to make sure that the credentials, as Charmaine says, unique to one individual. Unique
to the right. That's a secret. Very, very, very good. Okay, let's see. I think we have two more questions. Let's see if we could pull them in quickly. Is it possible to cancel transfers or even establish a form of a standing order to make transfers? Can we cancel transfers? Can we set up standing orders using DCash?
Well, in terms of canceling, Governor, remember that it uses a push technology. So I have to confirm that I want to make a transaction. So I can initiate something, and then when it comes to me to confirm, I can then say, you know what? No, and cancel. And that's the issue. Unlike the credit card that pulls this one, you have to initiate that. You have to push out the transaction. Of course, if now you want to reverse something, then there is a facility that the merchant can do to give back cash if someone then decides I don't want the goods anymore. And so there's a functionality that is part of the app where they can press on the transaction and do a reversal or do a reimbursement.
Right. And I suppose on standing order, I mean, if I'm working with a credit union or a bank, in theory, I should be able to set up a standing order. If I'm going to use, let's say $2,000 in DCash every month, in theory, I could probably have that transferred to my wallet for my financial institution and then transact in DCash. So that would be one way of using a standing order. I'm not sure that's the only way, but that readily comes to mind as an option. For those of us who know what we're going to be using it for, sort of have an idea of what our monthly usage is likely to be. Okay, quick, two final questions. Do the individual territories have to update legislation in order to support DCash? I think we answered that before, but let's answer it again. Is there any legislative update required to support our use of DCash? And essentially, we answered that question the last time. We said that we took an amendment to the ECCB agreement, I think Schedule 1, that was signed by our governments in February, that basically mandates or authorizes us to be able to issue DCash. So that has been addressed. Mm-hmm. And the final question is, when are we going to start? Charmaine, what's the latest on that?
So, Governor, we're at the stage now where we're fine-tuning the applications. What we want to make sure that when we eventually launch the DCash, that it gives a very good user experience. And so because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have some of our key stakeholders, particularly financial institutions, who have had to make adjustments in their internal operations to deal with the fallout from that. So we have been very patient with them. And we understand that they would need some more time to go through the training, the testing, and so we're taking the time to ensure that they feel comfortable and that they are ready to serve the public when we actually launch. Similarly, some of the merchants have been operating on reduced hours because of the lockdowns and the curfews, etc. So what we have taken the time to do is to give them the extra time that they need to be comfortable, because we don't want, when we launch, they're still trying to learn the app, or they're still trying to understand what is to be done. And then users then get frustrated and then don't want to use DCash. So we're taking the time out, but we promise that in very short order, DCash will be available to the public and everyone will be part of this wonderful experience.
Right. I think we're counting in weeks now, but we will make the announcement once we are satisfied that everybody is properly onboarded and that the marketing push, the last phase of that, is completed. So we'll keep you in tune on that, but that is imminent. And this is why we've been spending time building up your education and your knowledge of the DCash project. So ladies, they said time flies when we're having fun. And so our time is almost up. And so I want to move to the final comments. I'll start with Sybil, then I'll ask Janelle, and then we'll end with Charmaine. If you could just give your final thoughts on tonight's event and the way you see the project going forward. Sybil?
I was muted. Yes, I want to invite everyone to get on board with DCash. It's your cash, it's DCash, and D in terms of it's the cash that you need to have, and it's DCash in terms of the digital experience. With this, the ECCB is making sure that we modernize our payment system in a way that affords you the opportunity to have a seamless payment infrastructure to support your stability, to support a more inclusive and participatory financial access, and to promote economic development. And so when money moves faster, we all stand to benefit. So all I have to tell you to do is get on board with DCash and keep learning as much as you can, so that when we announce that we are ready, all you want to know is, where can I sign up? And that's with your financial institution or your agency to ensure that you are part of this transformative experience. DCash, it's for you.
Thank you, Sybil. You sound like you're warming up to that marketing right now. Very good. Thank you. Janelle?
But Governor, I said it the last time I was here, my sentiments are the same. I have tunnel vision where DCash is concerned. I really can't wait to see it on the streets, so to speak. I want to see my peers. I want to be able to send my husband some digital cash dollars. And I want to be able to speak about it. I want to be able to transact in it. So I just want to see the launch of digital cash, and I want to encourage everyone to become a participant in the pilot so that we could benefit handsomely from it.
Thank you, Janelle. David, good news. DCash is coming to school from your
I thought Governor
Janelle.
should have said she can't wait for her husband to send her DCash. I'm not like you, Janelle. I'm waiting to get the DCash.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Janelle. Charmaine?
Governor, for the past few months, I've been eating, sleeping, breathing DCash. I think I've seen DCash all in my sleep now. So I'm really looking forward to the actual launch of this pilot project. It should be very exciting from what we're seeing from our end on the inside. We see the excitement, we feel the excitement, and we want to share that with the public. So my words of advice to the public is to get on board, be part of this changing experience. It's like no other that you've gone through before, and it's an opportunity to be part of history and be part of the ECCU history. This project has gotten worldwide recognition, and it shows that as small as we are, we can make that first step, we can make that giant leap, and we can be the envy of the world. So I think persons should be proud to be part of that initiative. And so I just wanted the opportunity to encourage all persons out there, when we launch, to be part of the DCash experience.
Wonderful. Thank you. Ladies, you've been great. You've done an excellent job tonight on our panel. And my heartiest thanks to all of you, Charmaine, Janelle, and Sybil, for wonderful contributions tonight to furthering the gospel of DCash, as we will put it. I now want to say thank you to all of our listeners and viewers around the Currency Union and further afield who've joined us for the last 90 minutes. It's been our pleasure to share with you where we are. DCash is your cash. It's our currency. 44 years ago, we came together and we formed the central bank, an institution that has served us extraordinarily well over these 44 years. At that time, 8 small states came together and formed common cause and formed an institution for our benefit. And tonight, we are on another journey to create a product for our benefit in the DCash. It is your currency, it is our currency. Let's make it work for us. I'd like to thank my colleagues who have supported this dialogue this evening. Dr. Emma Soado, who is the coordinator of the Digital Dialogues, who works out of my office. Marlon Davis, Marlon Bristol, Alston Crawford, Olivia Langhorn, Ayodele Roche, who worked on the poll. And I'm sure there are a couple other colleagues who were working on Facebook, Monique Franks and Leanne Irish Wade, our colleagues who are monitoring Facebook and also the Zoom. I also want to thank Kay Kichura, who was on a panel on a previous occasion, who was also working behind the scenes tonight. It's been a wonderful team effort again. And on behalf of all of us, I want to thank you all for joining. The next time we return with ECCB Digital Dialogues will be on August 11th, when we will have pandemic and banking. That will be our focus. August 11th, pandemic and banking. And this one will be at 10 a.m. So stay tuned for that. And of course, there are some other dialogues that are being planned even as we speak. So with that, from me to you, good night, and God bless you all.